No come in the greenhouse. You're not happy about that at all. Welcome to MoggyBoxCraft. I'm Deborah and welcome back to my greenhouse and garden. Don't mind him. He's happy, I promise. He's just sad he's not allowed in the greenhouse. It's the beginning of July. Everything's starting to grow, bloom, and things are starting to get ready to harvest. And I've been flower shopping again, because I've got big plans for my flower garden to transform it into something a little bit more beautiful and a little bit more organised. But first, let's take a look at what's been happening in the greenhouse. So down here I've got all my extra seedlings, or plants now. The aubergine is looking really good, flowering like crazy. Hopefully we get some aubergines. Not that I've ever been very successful with aubergines in the past, but we can but hope. And in the back here, I've repotted some of the melons. The melons are now in bigger pots at the back here. I'm still not sure they'll be big enough. And I've put in some support, so hopefully they can grow up. I've also planted up the butternut squash, so I've got one here and one in the garden just down there. But the peppers are flowering. Oh, I didn't even notice. Oh, we do have a pepper growing, and there's another one at the back. No chilies as yet, but the plants are looking fantastic. And down here, I've also planted some sugar snap peas. I've planted absolutely loads of peas. There is a few starting to pop through, a few more there as well. So I'm going to use these pea seedlings for my deterrent test for slugs and snails, using things like copper mesh and copper wire and all that stuff. We're going to test all that out in another video, coming soon hopefully. I just need to wait for these to grow. And all the tomatoes and everything else in the greenhouse is growing really, really well. I'm really pleased with how everything is looking. The tomatoes are even starting to flower. I'm so pleased about that. So now the warm weather is here, the tomato plants are really starting to grow ferociously. So this is the time it's so important to start keeping on top of them, pinching out those side shoots and pinching out some lower branches so the plant gets lots of air to circulate around it. So keeping on top of the foliage in your side shoots will also mean that more energy goes into making the tomato than foliage. I've cut a lot of stems out of this plant. I've also cut back some of these leaves. Oh, and here is the perfect example. You can see the plant stem here, plant branch, and coming out at a 40-degree angle is a side shoot. So this is what we want to get rid of. So get your secateurs and snip out that side shoot. That'll help your tomato plants produce way more tomatoes. And if they're small enough like this one, you can just pinch them out using your nail. So this is also a great time to help your plant with the supports. I have these ropes in my planters attached to the roof of the greenhouse. I'm just going to help guide the plant around the rope and encourage it to climb up the rope, so it's got a little bit of support. The melons are starting to grow in really nicely as well now. Again, going to try and help guide the plants up the support rope so they've got somewhere to grow. I don't know what's going on down there, but we're trying our best to try and keep everything nice and neat and tidy. Cucumbers are looking really good. Got some flowers and some cucumbers forming. Oh, and another one in there, how lovely. And I'm using support ropes and guide ropes on them too. I've also moved the watermelon from my house into the greenhouse. The watermelon is still in its pot, but it is growing a little bit crazy, so I thought it was best to move it in here. Again, I've put in some support ropes, tied it up to the top of the greenhouse, and it is living its merry little life in here. It also did have a flower, and this does look like the start of a watermelon. I mean, granted it's a very small watermelon, although I am going to have to work out some support for that if it does get any bigger. Fingers crossed we get watermelons this year. That would be a blinking miracle, wouldn't it? The strawberries I've planted this year are coming on beautifully. These are strawberry temptations. These 3 strawberries in the back are strawberry Xenopodium. I don't know how to pronounce that. But these strawberries are the ones that grow up like on a stick, apparently. They do look like they're starting to produce strawberries, although very small. And the rest of the strawberries are growing up nicely. I think getting rid of the weeds and giving them a feed and giving them some fresh soil's made all the difference. These are the 3 new strawberry plants I bought earlier this year. So they have been repotted. They are producing strawberries. So the first one is Hanoi, the one that's fruiting at the moment is Symphony. And the last one here is El Santa. Although very yes, make your presence known, that's tremendous. Although very frustratingly, I've discovered that the birds have discovered the strawberries, and every time a strawberry ripens, it's eaten by one of the birds before I can get to it. I've heard that if you take little pebbles and paint them like strawberries and pop them into your strawberry planters, the birds see them, peck on them. They'll obviously not like them because, well, they're rocks. That when the real strawberries are produced, they won't attack them or eat them because they'll think the same thing will happen. I think I'm going to go paint some pebbles like strawberries and see if that helps. Or I'm not going to get to eat any of my own strawberries this year. So that's pretty much everything exciting that's happening in the greenhouse at the moment. Let's move on to the raised beds. The onions are generally doing okay, apart from this little squished path in the middle of here. I think one of the cats from next door decided to create a pathway and it's just progressively gotten worse. So I planted these set onions in the autumn last year. They should be pretty much ready to harvest. Usually you can tell onions are ready to harvest because they turn a bit yellow at the tips and start to fall over. A few of mine are starting to yellow and brown at the tips, but the one thing I've noticed is this. So I'm starting to see these appear in my onions. They're starting to bolt and go to flower. When they start to bolt and go to flower, there's nothing much you can do. You just have to harvest them, get them out of the ground as fast as you can and hope that they are still edible. Well, they'll still be edible, they're just not going to grow into onions anymore, and hope that not all the onions do that. So let's pull this one, see what it looks like. Not the best looking onion, but never mind. There is a few like that. I'll pull this one as well. You really want them to be a bit bigger than this, unfortunately. Oh, that one's better. Yeah, that's a better looking onion, isn't it? This one's a bit rubbish. It's tiny. What do I do after I've picked my onions? We dry them, of course, for storage. So this behind me is a portable clothes rail. 2 of them, in fact. I've basically taken one apart and using some twine, just lashed the bars on. So I've got 4 bars to basically dry my onions and garlic on. So I've got my bunch of onions, get my secateurs, and I'm just going to cut off the ends of the onions. So I'm left with a more manageable bunch of onions. Then get yourself an elastic band, tie the elastic band around the top of your onions, and then pop your onions on your clothes rail to dry. This clothes rail does go and live in our shed where it's cool and dark and the onions can dry in peace. So then they'll be good to eat for quite some time. My plan is to get the onions and the garlic harvested pretty soon, so I've got some room to plant some beetroot. So I've not got any planted this year yet, and I really want to plant some more carrot seeds. So I'm hoping if I plant the carrot seedlings now, then hopefully they'll be ready for winter and they will store happily in the soil in the raised beds over winter. As for the rest of this bed, I seem to have had 0 luck with my climbing French beans. I think a mouse got in here and either dug or ate out most of them, and the rest seem to have died. This is the last one that looks any sort of sense, and it's, yeah, for no use. Also, the lettuce was attacked, I'm pretty sure, again by mice. So I have 1 tiny ice gem lettuce growing there. I've got a few surviving courgettes. These are Defender 3s. And this is the butternut squash that I've planted out. So I've got 1 out here and 1 in the greenhouse because I just don't trust our weather and if we're going to get any butternut squash out here. Is it going to be warm enough this year? I don't know. And I've managed to save 1 zombie pumpkin and 2 sugar pumpkins. So I have faith that I have a chance at getting pumpkins this year, finally. The garlic's looking pretty good. Usually when the garlic is ready to harvest, the leaves start turning this brown-yellow colour. So these shouldn't be far away now, but I'm going to leave them a few more weeks just to make sure. Carrot seedlings are doing great, as is the parsnips. Finally, a year that I can say we've definitely got parsnips, hurrah! And yes, that flapping you can hear is gala bunting flags. Well, I got them for Andy's birthday and it seemed silly to put them away, so I thought I would just put them up in the garden. Although it does look like a summer fete, doesn't it? But I think they're pretty. Maybe they'll help try and keep the birds off some of the produce. Although they do make a lot of noise when they're flapping about in the wind. Brussel sprouts are growing like mad. Super chuffed with these. I have thinned them out a little bit, but I probably will have to pull a few more plants out of here yet because it is still looking pretty crowded. But I shall wait and see which plants look the strongest and I'll pull the weaker ones. Onto the green mesh box with asparagus and cauliflowers. So this massive cauliflower with no cauliflower in the middle of it is the one I started last year. These other 3 cauliflowers down here with the lids on, I planted at the start of this spring. And I've put these lids on to try and protect the cauliflowers in the middle. Oh, it's so beautiful. I would say that's ready to harvest. That one has gone, that one's going a bit crazy. How's this one looking? Yeah, that one's definitely gone to shot. Have to get that harvested. These are so beautiful. I love them. Nearly too good to eat, but we will. So the reason I put little lids over them is to really help protect them from the sun and sun damage, so they stay a bit lighter and whiter. If not, they kind of go purpley colour. That's my reason for it anyway. I think it helps, but who knows. And the asparagus is as wild as ever. Oh, and I think we've got a rogue potato in there. I don't know what that's doing. Let's haul that out. I'm tempted to cut all this back and see if we get any decent sized asparagus now it's actually in the ground. There's definitely a few growing up here, so it might be time to cut some of this back. Answer below in the comments if you know. So these are last year's carrots that I'm going to be seed saving from. Hopefully it will work. We shall find out soon enough. And this is my potatoes. This year I'm growing Charlotte potatoes and rooster potatoes. So the first half of the bed here is the Charlotte potatoes. So these are little white potatoes, and they're best to be harvested just as they start to flower. You can grow them on so they're bigger potatoes, but I like them really little. And at the back there is my rooster potatoes. They're a kind of red variety of potato. The rooster potatoes I'm going to let flower, and when the leaves wilt back, that's when I'll harvest them. So the potatoes will be a lot bigger. But enough about the potatoes, on to more serious topics like slug and snail deterrence. So I've been trying out Slug and copper mesh as slug and snail deterrents. So the Slug went okay, I think. It's really hard to tell. Most things in the raised bed are big enough now that they're not going to get much damage from the slugs and snails. On the other hand, all these little seedlings that I've planted in flowers are still having a few problems. I have put some copper mesh around a whole load of my pots, and so far it's going really, really well. I would have expected these to be eaten like crazy by now, and they haven't been. Another favourite of the slug is the marigold. Now, this poor thing had gotten eaten like nobody's business, and since I put the copper mesh around the pot, so I put a bit here and a little bit all around the pot here, it's actually starting to grow back. I'm really surprised. I know this doesn't look like much, but it's really good. There was literally no leaves on this at all. I've also used some copper mesh down here in our confetti garden because the clary and the larkspur were definitely getting eaten a lot. And the larkspur is finally starting to grow back a little bit. That was down to absolutely nothing. The clary has a bit of damage on it there, but it's had no more damage since I put the copper mesh around it there. So far so good for the copper mesh. Seems to be doing the trick around the things I can get the mesh around. But like I said earlier, I do plan on doing a slug and snail deterrent trial with a variety of different things, just to see what works and what doesn't. So if you haven't already, subscribe and stay tuned to find out what happens there. I've decided to give the planter behind me a little bit of a rainbow makeover. So I've already been rearranging some of the flowers and plants I have in there. The plan is to go from blue to purple to pink into red, orange, yellow and white flowers, because I think it'll be very pretty. So I'm going to start up here with the blue. Well, I've not really got any blue plants yet. We're going to start up here with the purple flowers and work our way down, and I'll show you all the flowers I've got in. Let's start with this. Oxalis Triangulus Mike. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but these are gorgeous. Look at these gorgeous petals. Then we've got Salvia Blue Marvel. Gorgeous purple flowers. Hopefully it'll be a hit with the butterflies. Moving on to the pink. I've got a Foxglove Panther. Gorgeous flowers. All of these are gorgeous, obviously, because that's why I bought them. Beautiful looking plant. I've got Dianthus Pink Kisses, very delicate pink blooms, and Alpine Pink Berry Blush, another beautiful delicate flower. This is very similar to the Dianthus Flutterburst I got last year. And finally in the pink category, Armira Ballerina Purple Rose. They're like little pink puffballs. Gorgeous little thing. So far I've only got one red flower in this category. Dahlia Mystic Enchantment. Beautiful dark foliage with this beautiful bright red flower. I think I'm going to need a few more red flowers to fill up this area, but we'll get there. In the orange category I've got two. A lily, Bright Joy. Beautiful bright orange lilies. I don't know how to pronounce this one, but it's like an orange daisy. Like a giant orange daisy. In the yellow section we've got another one I can't pronounce. I don't know how to say that. But these are really dense yellow. It's like a proper sunshine yellow, I would say. These are the sister to the red one I've got. Dahlia, Mystic Illusion. And these are nearly like a neon yellow. Beautiful for a pop of colour at the bottom of this planter. And finally, my only white flowering plant I got. Rhododendron, is that how we pronounce it? In Casablanca. I just thought this was a gorgeous little thing. It would have been rude to leave it in the garden centre. I'm going to get these flowers planted up out their pots into the soil, give them a good soak in, so hopefully they'll be happy in their new homes. I've tried to make sure they're all perennial so they'll grow back year after year. And that way I can class it as an investment into the garden. Do we need an excuse? Not really. If you've enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a comment, share and subscribe. Of course, subscribing is optional, but it is very much appreciated. So thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!